Hey guys, sorry it's been a while since I had a chance to post my last video. Been a little bit busy, was out of the country for a little bit. But anyway, just want to pick back up, and today I wanted to shoot a video on our Tesla Model Y Performance. This is a 2021 model. Picked it up pretty much right when the car came out. Nothing you guys probably haven't seen already. There's a bunch of these on the road, so just a little quick whack around. Blue, white interior, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's get in there and get going. So we're in the 2021 Model Y Performance. This was our first EV car. Picked it up back in June of 2021 when the Model Y practically first came out, and it was kind of a leap of faith. What do I mean by that? Well, you know, I've been a diehard gas engine kind of person, so the idea of owning a EV wasn't really convincing for me at first. My wife, however, have completely gone head over heels for a Tesla. I don't know why, but you know, she had convinced me ultimately to give it a shot. So the Model 3 was something in consideration when I ultimately checked to purchase this car. It was a pre-order. The cars weren't quite available yet, but you know, before they were released, I put a security deposit down on one. Now, I tried the Model 3. It wasn't as roomy in the back, and with a family, you know, we could always use the extra room, so it was something that didn't convince me at the time. And because I wasn't so sure what the ownership of an EV was like, I didn't want to invest that much money purchasing like a Model X or an S at the time, which was a lot more expensive. I think those were probably in the neighborhood of 100,000 or so. So naturally I wanted something cheaper in case, you know, the ownership experience didn't convince me that we could be able to offload it, and that's why we decided to go with a cheaper EV. And again, the Model 3 just wasn't up to snuff. The legroom in the back was just too tight, but ultimately the size of this Model Y just fit perfectly for what we needed the car to be. Like I said, this was a 2021. Here we are in 2024, and this car now has over 78,000 miles. And needless to say, we've kept it this long for a reason, and that is because I have been convinced of the ownership experience. There's something to be said about never having to go to the gas station again to fill up. At least for this car, you just plug it in overnight. We do have a charger at home. We have a Tesla charger, and by the morning it's ready to go, quote unquote, with a full tank of gas. Now, normally on this particular car we charge to about 80%, so in the mornings we're getting somewhere around 205 miles on the range. It's a very simplistic car. Anyone who's ever seen a Tesla or sat in one knows their approach is very minimalistic. To that, I mean, you know, I do appreciate that, because coming from traditional cars, you know, the Mercedes, the Range Rovers, I mean, we had all those, right? And so you had a bunch of buttons that control this, control that. Now in this car, granted, everything is mostly controlled through the large screen, a couple buttons here, but as far as the operations of the car goes, everything is extremely intuitive, and your hand placements or your hand gestures to get something done, whether it's to pull up a radio station or select a different media type or adjust to AC, you get used to it over time, right? And so now sometimes when I get into a car, a traditional car where there's multiple buttons, it feels a little clunky. So anyway, going back to the ownership of this car, everything is very, very simplistic, and in some ways that feels a little liberating. You know, this car, as far as it going to the dealerships to have anything fixed, I think when we first took the car, first took delivery of the car, we had to go get a couple panels adjusted. Now this is back in the days when Teslas were kind of notorious for having panel gaps and quality issues. So yeah, on this particular car, if I remember correctly, the trunk was misaligned, and I think one more panel, I can't remember which, all of which got fixed. So when they corrected all that, it really didn't leave much to complain about. The interesting thing I will say is one of the also deciding factors was knowing that Teslas had really high rating on their safety score. Now, this is just my own personal opinion, but sometimes when you get into this particular car, when you shut the doors, it doesn't have the solidity of, say, like a European mid-range car. So like a Mercedes E-Class, a BMW, maybe a 3 or 5 Series, for example. By comparing those cars, being that they're in sort of the same price range, right? So when we purchased this car, it was around $77,000, if I remember correctly. But if you took that same amount and went to buy one of those European cars, when you shut the doors, you feel the solidity of the build. Whereas on this car, when you shut the doors, there's a little lightness to it, almost Toyota-like. And you know, you kind of wonder how solid it is. Would it hold up in a serious accident? Now, thankfully, we've never been through one. But the point being that, you know, when you shut the door, it just didn't have that tightness or that solidness to it. Anyway, I can't refute the data, which still says that this is still one of the most safe cars out there. And again, hopefully we'll never have to find out. Ownership, again, the simplicity of it. The only thing we had to go through were tires. You know, we haven't even had to replace the brake pads, being that it's 78,000 miles or so. It's very unique. Funny story, it started squeaking once, and I took it to the dealership, or I'm sorry, the service facility, and they said, no, your brakes were fine. In fact, you're not using your brakes enough, and they were kind of generating a layer of dust on them. That's why they were kind of squeaking. But you know, the regenerative braking and everything, it really takes out the need of almost using the brakes. In fact, this 1-foot pedal driving sort of approach to driving a car is very welcome. I mean, you get to a point where you're so used to it now that you can kind of time where you need to take your foot off the accelerator and the car will ultimately slow itself down. It just makes driving actually quite pleasurable. You don't have to think too much. You know, this car is very responsive, being that it is a sport version. The suspension on this, I will say, is a little more on the firm side. I haven't tried the long range or the dual. I forgot what the other trim level was, but I haven't tried any of the others, so I can't say how comfortable or what their performance metrics are like. I will tell you that on this, it's extremely fast. I think this is rated about 457 horsepower, and so anytime you want to get that acceleration going, it's instant, fast enough for daily use, right? I mean, if I'm at a red light and you know, there was another performance car next to me that isn't electric, I would say 9 out of 10 times this thing probably would take it. Not really something I do, but you certainly have the confidence out of the performance model should you be interested in that kind of hooliganism. But anyway, yeah, so you know, this This car has been through a lot of adventures with us. We've taken it on road trips. It is a very, very easy car to do any of those long drives with. It's comfortable enough. I think what they say is true, which is that, you know, by the time you deplete your battery state of charge, when it gets time to get to a point where you have to charge the car, you probably have sat in the seat long enough, and it is a welcome thing to get out and stretch or grab a bite, you know, grab something to drink. The timing of it all just kind of works out. So as far as road tripping goes, no issues there. What else can I say about this? The one criticism I will give Teslas, as far as this, maybe they've improved a little bit, and I say that because with the Cybertruck, the experience has been a little bit different. But the main issue I have is their mileage, as far as what they show you have left to drive on the battery. Because I have it set to where my battery displays the amount of miles left, right? And knowing, listen, I understand that, you know, how you drive, how you use a car depletes the battery at different rates, whether you're driving crazy or you're blasting the AC, you know, that affects the battery, I guess, life, and as far as distances that's allowed. But we have had times where, you know, we have the car fully charged in the morning. It'll show 205. We'll drive probably no more than a mile or two away from the house, and it's already depleted by 5 miles. And this is not driving crazy. This is just normal driving, right? So sometimes it does appear as if the battery's depleting faster than what you visualize. And coming from a gas car, it does worry you a little bit, because with a gas car, the little gas meter, it doesn't drop as quick, right? Visually, you see how much gas you have left, and it's a pretty accurate representation of when you need to go to a gas station. Whereas on this, there have been times where, again, you just feel like it's depleting faster than what you expect. You drive 5 miles, but it feels like it's subtracting 15, right? Something like that. So that's my one criticism of Tesla. I think there are cars that reflect the mileage a little more accurately. I don't know why Tesla does that, other than to maybe say that they were intentionally trying to convince the customer that they have, you know, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I will say this. The Cybertruck does feel more accurate. I wouldn't have the same complaints that I'm telling you now on the Cybertruck. So I don't know if just maybe some earlier cars have this issue, and why maybe they didn't do a over-the-air update to correct it. But anyway, it's a small, minor complaint. It's not something I'm aware of every day, to the extent of saying, man, this is just so inaccurate and it bugs me so much, I want to get rid of it. Because I will say, going into this EV experience at first, I definitely was like most people who had range anxiety. But I would say 90% of the ownership of this car is for day-to-day local driving, and that has served us extremely well. I don't know how much longer we'll keep this car, and I say that because I'm definitely a fan of Tesla. I will say that I am very, very much looking forward to the new Juniper model, which is the updated version of this car. I know that's coming out right around the corner. Having seen the new Model 3 and sort of the freshening of it, and also the sort of the new interior and build quality, knowing how good that is, I have high hopes for the replacement of this car. You know, when we purchased this car, I mean, I bought it with all the bells and whistles, so meaning we added the full self-driving, and I'm not sure I want to give that up yet. And I'll say that it's because mainly and I think I have the latest full self-driving software. It really works extremely well. I probably had to correct it once or twice, but for the most part, I'm very convinced that Tesla is on the right path and is close to achieving full self-driving. And I don't want to give that up unless they run a promotion to where if you traded this car towards a newer Model Y, that they allow you to transfer over the full self-driving. I don't like the idea that Tesla makes you buy full self-driving again. I've heard different arguments on that. But personally, I'm on the camp where I would hope and wish that Tesla would allow you to take it with you on the next car that you purchase. So yeah, I think you know, with the full self-driving improving as quickly and as much as they have, it also adds to this car, meaning that it's an option that actually does make the car better. You know, Elon was sort of famous for saying that your car gets better over time through software updates and things of that nature, and you know, I can't disagree with that. In fact, I haven't owned a Rivian, so I don't know what their approach is, but these over-the-air updates really make a huge difference. I know we have a Mercedes EQS in the family. That car, if you need any kind of updating, goes to the dealership. My friend has a Taycan. Needs any kind of updating, got to go to the dealership. So, you know, if you've gone to the dealership enough, you know what a hassle that is. First, you got to make the time to bring your car in. Then it's a question of whether you have to wait there or not, or if you don't, you have to find another way home or get to where you got to go. Then you got to come back and pick up the car and all that. So sometimes it's like, you know, when you got to address something that has the requirement of being at a dealership, it's almost half a day gone. So, you know, that's really appreciated, that the ownership of these things is that simple. Not only that, but if you ever have an issue with the car, you can book an online appointment. If it's minor enough, they'll come to your location and fix the issue for you. Or, you know, it's just easy to be able to make a schedule to bring your car in right through the app. So, you know, these aren't necessarily things that are surprising anybody nowadays, right? I mean, I think Tesla and the way the ownership is quite out in the open. I mean, I'd be surprised if people didn't know these things that I was already saying. But I will also say that with the growth of the supercharger network, which, you know, 4 years ago or 3 years ago when we bought this car, it's obviously expanded. And so you don't really get too much anxiety of, you know, not having something in close range when you need it. Every time we've been out, I've always had an ease of time to find a supercharger. Now, granted, when you get there, there may be times where you might have to wait your turn because of the amount of cars charging. But, you know, for the multiple times that we've had to charge the car, I will say I probably had to wait on 2 occasions. So really, that's not much at all. Yeah, I mean, the car, it just, you know, and again, it handles really well. It's on the sportier side, this one being the performance. But steering's great. Braking's great. Acceleration's great. You know? Some people argue, well, this car has no soul. Well, you know, that's a tough one. I look at it as it's actually very fun to drive this car. You know, sometimes when you just want to go fast, you step on the gas and off you go. I mean, it is kind of like a roller coaster in a way. A lot of people might argue, well, it's a one-trick pony, and you know, you get sick of it over a while. I don't know. For me, it's fun. It's still fun. It's actually like driving a go-kart. You can take corners in this. You can do almost anything like a sports car, minus the sound. And especially if you miss sort of like, say, the manual shifter or the paddle gearbox, yeah, you can say you're missing, those sensations. But for the most part, I would say 80% of it is there, just like a internal combustion engine type of car. I'm definitely a fan for whatever else Tesla may be releasing in the future. Obviously, our Cybertruck was the second purchase for my family. I purchased a Model X. If you've seen that video for my father. And my mother's car may be being replaced soon as well. And she's the one who actually has the Mercedes EQS. And I think I'm gonna probably replace that with a Tesla as well. So we'll see what we decide for her then. On another note, I think the Robotaxi event's coming up soon. I'm very, very interested to see what they have coming. My friend who is a designer at the Tesla facility in Hawthorne has hinted how busy they are cramming this thing out, but says that we're all going to be in for a good surprise. So very much looking forward to that. Yeah, just to tie it up, really, the only thing I had to spend money on with this car to this date are tires. And the downside of it is these wheels are staggered in size, so you can't rotate the tires. The rears will wear out the fastest. I believe I have, I want to say Michelin's on there right now. They usually run about 230, 220 a piece, I think. And they probably last about 15,000-ish miles. Now, granted, that might be because, you know, for the most part, sometimes I drive with a heavy foot, but you know, how can you not? This thing is just like a little rocket, right? But in comparison to some other cars that if I have 77,000 miles on, I would have been spending thousands on repair and servicing. So, you know, you kind of have to put that in perspective. Now, I'll say this: I live in an area where there's a lot of hills, right? So, taking a gas engine car, you gotta build up the momentum, you know, to get going. Whereas this is very, very welcome anytime you want to get anywhere. It just, you know, hill or no hill, it just goes. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm convinced. I'm very convinced, and I foresee Tesla's being part of our lineup in the future. I mean, you know, they're making cars like the Cybertruck, which, be it that it might be polarizing, it certainly keeps things interesting, right? They still have that Roadster that they're coming out with. I don't know, I heard something about a van, and they of course have, or are trying to go for that sub 30,000 category as well. So they got a lot of interesting projects coming up soon in the future. Anyway, that's it for now. Not much more to report on this. I imagine even if I made another video at 100,000 miles, it wouldn't be much different. Maybe the only thing different would be the full self-driving getting even better than what it is now. So anyway, just want to let you know that if you guys are ever thinking about Tesla, I think bite the bullet and probably be convinced. In fact, most people who that I spoke with or came across that weren't convinced before, whether or not because they went to go get a test drive or they bit the bullet just like I did, but now are complete fans of, you know, at least the Tesla EV owning experience. So anyway, until the next time, guys, thanks very much for watching.